DuPont Building Innovations, we developed a house wrap back 40 some odd years ago, and DuPont's basically a building science company, and the flashing products have actually been developed for over probably 12 years now. And there's a lot of people here just this morning that came by the booth. I've never seen this before, so it's a good introduction to flashing windows. And basically what I want to talk about is the durable, energy efficient wall construction. And where's Andy? Andy basically stole everything I was going to talk about. So basically about the building codes and where building codes are going and the risk that we have as builders. So these are beautiful Strasburger windows. They're great, nice big windows. They're great selling features, but what happens when they leak? And I know your windows don't leak. It's the wall interface that we need to look at. So again, they're great big selling features, but the last thing you want is your customer saying that you've got a leak and you need to go back and open up that wall and fix it. So when we talk about durable, energy efficient walls, we talk about the energy efficiency. We need to manage thermal efficiency through insulation and air barriers. Our walls need to be durable, and we need to manage the moisture in the wall. And that includes water barriers, house wraps, flashings, air barriers. We need to ventilate it. We need to make sure it's drainable, and we need to maximize that drying potential. Again, Andy talked a lot about where the codes are going, but we've got the R2000, the Energy Star, and building codes. So we know that come 2017, we're going to be asked to add more insulation to the walls. And again, as Andy alluded to, the more insulation you add, which is great from an energy perspective, but now it puts us at a greater risk for water intrusion. In the old days, there's so many guys that put windows in 40 years ago. There was no insulation in the wall cavity at all. And that furnace would dry out that wall cavity. The walls could get wet, the windows could get wet, there'd be no problem because you had this furnace which was drying everything out. Well, we kept 10 years later, we added more insulation, and now we got so much insulation in the wall that it's very, very cold on the back side of that exterior surface. So the chance of condensation and risk is that much greater. So increasing the stringency of the building envelope provisions, air barrier requirements. We're adding exterior foam products to the walls. We've got a lot of areas for air leakage, a lot of sources for air leaks, so we need to make that exterior tight. So when you consider, you've got your new triple pane windows, we're adding more insulation, you've really got to make some choices. And material costs, insulation costs, and what's your new risk is your callback. And how much is that callback going to cost you to fix that window leak if and when your windows get wet and leak? So nationally, this is a North American figure, but 69% of all construction defects are moisture related. And I think Andy mentioned a higher number than that. But with that, it says building codes adopted in the 1970s and strengthened through the 80s and early 90s required greater energy efficiency. Paradoxically, the demise of this drafty house had an unintended consequence. When moisture penetrates today's walls, they tend to stay wet. And that's true. So we want to manage the bulk water by the 4 Ds, redundancy. That brick, the vinyl siding, that's your first line of defense. When I talk about flashings, we're talking about the secondary line of defense, and that where your Tyvek and your house wrap gets flashed to your windows. So your brick, your stucco, your EIFS, your vinyl siding, all these exterior claddings leak. There's not one that doesn't. So that would cover maybe 80% of your water intrusion, whereas the house wrap and the flashings are going to take care of the other 20%. So we want to minimize wetting. Again, bulk water is the number one culprit, and that can be wind-driven rain through around siding, through joints, and that sort of thing. Moisture moves by air air transportation as well through gaps and cracks in your wall, and it can also get wet by diffusion. So we want to maximize that wall by allowing drainage, whether it's behind vinyl siding or brick. We want to ventilate that space and allow for water to drain out. And our walls can dry by diffusion as well. So here we have a flashed window opening, an attempt to it anyways, but it's reverse flashed at the head. So water is going to get in behind and deposit into the sill cavity. And because in this particular case they've flashed the bottom of the window opening, it's going to keep the water there as well. We take walls apart all the time, and we see this. And what happens is the moisture hits the head of the window, drains to the side, comes down, sits right in that corner. And those corners are always rotted out. This particular case, there was no sill flashing. They used Tyvek on the sill, which is not an approved flashing material, and then they taped it to the bottom side of the window, hoping that would keep water out. But the water, it just basically trapped water in there. So this is part of the problem. Windows are tested by themselves, and they pass, no problem. Our walls get tested by themselves, they pass, no problem. As soon as you introduce a window to a wall, now you've got a different scenario. And this is where DuPont and their flashing systems test a wall system. So they do the spray water and all the particular tests, and we flash the windows, we make sure they don't leak. This is what a poorly flashed window would look like for it to a raindrop from above. Looking down, you're seeing the vinyl flange of that window exposed, and water's just going to run right behind it. Again, poorly flashed windows. And, back in the days, these windows might have been fine because you've had a lot of heat transfer moving through them, and they would have been able to dry out. But today, that's not going to happen. We need to make sure that that's flashed. Again, the contractor knew he had to flash the window, but Tyvek itself is not an approved flashing material. So we don't want to use Tyvek on a horizontal surface. Again, here they've wrapped the flashing on the bottom side of the window, and this is actually going to trap moisture in. A study probably 15 years ago by CCMC, they used red tape around all the window. They flashed it around the whole window. And basically the study said that you're better off using nothing around the windows than using red tape, because red tape basically pressurizes the face of that window. You get a little Venturi effect to the ripples in the tape, and wind-driven moisture gets deposited at a faster rate through into the window. It's sealed off, and now it can't get out. So we want to avoid that at all possible costs. Again, a window, all the corners, these are the real vulnerable points of that window. So we've introduced, DuPont introduced the DuPont window flashings probably 10, 12 years ago. And so we're going to talk about the flashings, the flex wrap, and some of the other alternative products to using to flash these windows. Flex wrap, some of you were around by the booth there, and I was demonstrating the flexible, moldable sill pan flashing. Great product. It's made with a rubber butyl. There's no asphalt in it whatsoever. And this would be a great product for flashing the sills without any primers, no patch, and no cutting. Also great for round top windows, dryer vents, any electrical protrusions, that sort of thing. Now we have a straight flash product, which is a rubber butyl product as well, but no flexibility to it. So you'd use that on the side jambs and the head jamb of the window as well. So in this particular case, what we do with this one here is we do an eye cut in the window. That's our latest cutting method for the Tyvek. So straight across the top, straight across the bottom, straight down the middle, fold the Tyvek in. And we're folding the Tyvek on a diagonal, upwards, out of the way before we flash. So here, this particular builder has used the flex wrap on the sill, and we want to bring that up 6 inches both sides of the sill. You notice the shim there. So he's sloped this sill 6 degrees to the outside. I'm going to caulk on the back 3 sides of that window. So there's 2 side jambs and the head of the window. Install the window. And now you've got your flange there. We're going to put the straight flash down on the side jambs and then across on the head jamb. And now we bring the Tyvek back down on top of the straight flash and tape it off. So that's properly shingled. So one way to avoid any problems with flashing windows is just don't put any windows in. Your walls won't leak, but I guess I shouldn't say that here, should I? So it makes flashing your windows pretty simple. So just to summarize, improper window flashings can lead to serious problems over time. DuPont has developed a complete weatherization system to flash your windows and prevent moisture intrusion. When you use Tyvek, when you use the flashing products, when you use our white sheathing tape and everything's installed properly, we give you a 10-year material warranty, but when doing so, we also provide a labor warranty as well, which would cover you, basically transfer your liability to Tarion, from Tarion. So we want to flash it right and flash it tight. Thank you.